Hi, everybody. Great to have you here. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. Joined now by my good friend and one of our great Raider writers, just produces great content every single day, 2 stories a day, writing about the silver and black. The great Carter Landis. Carter is also a very good and respected television personality. It's great to have him here. So, Carter, thanks for joining us, my friend.
Thank you for having me again.
All right. I want to get into three what I think are important issues as we sit here today, 10 days from training camp. Um, the first one is some rankings recently came out ranking all the coaches. And um I'm a big guy that you are what your record says you are. You are who you say you are. And so when I look at AP behind Andy Reid, of course he should be behind Andy Reid. And to his credit, AP would say that to you. But I don't have a problem being behind Jim Harbaugh, going just by what Jim Harbaugh's done in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh deserves to be ahead of him. I have no problem with that. Again, no issues. But man, there were guys that he beat and outcoached, and guys who have never done anything in the NFL, and AP has done something in the NFL as a coach. Was just disrespectful to me. I'm just curious. I'd love your thought process. You, like me, are not a Raider fan, but you are an NFL fan, and to me, respect is what happens on the field. I love AP's line. I'll never forget the first time I heard him say it. I literally grabbed my Sharpie and I'm taking notes because I thought it was so good that he said, "My resume's on the field." To me, I don't have a problem, and everybody's allowed to an opinion. But to me, I just thought that's disrespectful when there are guys that, have never done anything in the NFL and he's at least won some games, game plan, made some difficult decisions, also lost some games he should have won, but he's learning. I just would love your thoughts on that.
Do you remember exactly where he was ranked?
No, but it was very low.
Okay.
It was very low. And there were people ahead of him that have never done anything in the NFL. I think in this ranking I read, if somebody wrote about it this week. I don't remember if it was Aidan Champion or if it was Zeke, but
Mhm.
you know, someone writes about it and talks about it, and then like Eberflus from Chicago's in there. I mean, come on now. Yep, Eberflus beat him. I'm not saying that Eberflus didn't beat him, but he wasn't even the head coach then. I'm just saying to me, there was just that kind of stuff. I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah, I think when you rank coaches, it can get a little difficult, especially when you're ranking rookies. I think when you take into account, guys who haven't coached a game yet, I think you need to, by default, keep those guys at the bottom just because they haven't shown anything yet. I think the hang up with Antonio Pierce is just the fact that it's only been, a half of a season with him as a head coach. So maybe they're still looking to see a little bit more out of him. And then if they win a couple more games and he shows that he's more of a tactician and he shows that he's going to go head to head and beat these guys, then that ranking will increase. But absolutely, I think that there was enough that he put on the field last year, as you say, his resume being on the field, that shows that there's clearly something here. I mean, there was a noticeable change in a lot of things last year when he took over. There was a noticeable change in the energy the team played with. There was a notable change in the aggression the defense and both the offense played with. And I know it was a 9-game sample size, but it's as you say, if he's getting ranked behind a couple of guys who haven't proven anything, that's where I think that that disrespect comes in. And I mean, you look at Antonio Pierce, at a base level, uh, just a couple of games sample size, but this is the type of coach that teams are looking for now. They're looking for that leader of men. You can have your guys who are great with X's and O's. You can have your guys who will scheme up, beautiful, grand designs, but you want that guy who you're going to run through a wall for. And Antonio Pierce is 100% that guy for this team. And I think he showed that. very comfortably, very easy. He fits exactly what the Raiders want to do. And, I think that whether it's bulletin board material or not for the team, they're going to go out there and they're going to be the toughest team that, they can be. And I think they might say, let the rankings fall where they may. We're just going to go out here on the field and make plays and try to win games.
Agree with you. Again, I realize that it's all going to parse out, but to me, it's just interesting the way people perceive. So let's get to perception, and again, stay on perception. That's kind of the theme of today's podcast is perception. Rankings come out of Florida, and it's ranking the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, starting quarterbacks. And not only did Aidan O'Connell not make it, Gardner made it ahead of him. What got me was Aidan finishes the last 5 games, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he, uh, the team has said he's our guy. He's our number one guy. If Gardner's going to beat him, Gardner's going to have to. I mean, if Gardner's going to start, he's going to have to beat him with all the faith of the team. Now, I have no issue with if you want to have Patrick Mahomes ahead of him. Okay, I have zero issue with that. I think he is ahead of him. If you want to have Justin Herbert ahead of him, okay. I am as not a big of a Herbert guy as everybody else is. I think he's a wonderful young man. I am not sold that he's a wonderful quarterback. I mean, you go back and watch that game where Aidan O'Connell had his first start with Josh McDaniels, and yet Aidan had a bunch of interceptions, but he also almost outplayed Justin too. The Chargers didn't win that game because of Justin, and there were some guys on there that he beat last year, he outplayed last year, and then did not even make the list. And yet Gardner did, to me, was just stunning to me. Again, perception. Do you see that as disrespect? Okay, I'll give you another one. Okay, he was the second best rookie quarterback. I have no issue with CJ Stroud being ahead of him. But you look at Jit Richardson, the Indianapolis Colts quarterback. All right. Hardly played in college. A lot of people thought the Colts made a monster mistake because he just doesn't have enough experience. Gets injured quick. All right. Couldn't stay healthy. Did he show flashes in practice? Well, according to our Sports Illustrated, you know, Colts reporters, yes. But there wasn't a ton of flashes there. Again, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception last 5 games. There's some flashes there. You look at Richardson and other rookies ahead of him, not named CJ Stroud, to me was just foolishness. Perception. Love your thought on that.
No, absolutely. I actually really agree with you. I don't see any reason. I was a big Richardson fan coming out, but I don't see any reason to believe that based off of last season that there's any reason to rank Anthony Richardson ahead of Aidan O'Connell. Richardson only played like 4 something games like that because he got hurt. That's a big problem, big concern with him. Just the fact that he's not able to protect his body, and he's a guy who needs reps to improve. But no, I really think that there were a lot of flashes with Aidan O'Connell last year, and I think what he did last year is honestly league wide not talked about enough. I mean, to come in thrown right into it as a 4th-round rookie. Antonio Pierce says, "Hey, you're our guy. We're rocking with you." He's only played the 1 game against the Chargers beforehand, a couple snaps against the Bears, but largely other than that, nothing else. Like, just he didn't play very much, and so he's really just in the fire. And for him to come out, yeah, there was a couple struggle moments, but that's natural. I thought, though, there were some flashes as the season progressed. He started to get it. We started to see that quarterback that he was out of Purdue, the guy who was able to get the ball out quickly, throw some good passes. He took some shots downfield. There was a lot to like about what he did, and I mean, you see that in the players that rally around him and say, this is our guy. I mean, even, I'm watching the Netflix documentary Receiver, and Devontae Adams even says, I signed off on the quarterback change. So, this is their guy For sure. I understand. I can see having Gardner Minshew on there. I can see, he's a little bit more of a proven commodity, but
Mhm.
at the same
100%.
time, that's a little bit of a discrepancy because if they have Richardson on there, he's not ahead of him. To not even have O'Connell listed, that's a bit of a discrepancy. I was thoroughly impressed with Aiden O'Connell. You could have a guy look, like a deer in headlights out there as a rookie quarterback. But I thought for the most part that he did not. I mean, I know he had a lot of experience at Purdue, so he's played a lot of quarterback, but the NFL is a different beast. You could forget everything you've learned in college once the NFL speed starts coming at you. But you know what? He made those adjustments. He started to play well, and you can absolutely see why this team has so much faith in him, and I think that he's not being considered enough when it comes to the starting job. I think outside eyes, outside voices are essentially giving it to Gardner Minshew and not fully considering what Aiden O'Connell did last year, especially as a young quarterback. I think that there's still a lot to grow on, and I definitely think he should have been ranked a little bit higher or even ranked at all on these quarterback lists. I think he just has to be considered a little bit more based on what he was able to do in the situation that he was in last year.
Brian Hoyer told me this last year, and I thought it was brilliant. Matter of fact, he told me this after the season. But he said what really impressed him with Aiden is every rookie has stuff he has to learn. Every rookie has things he's got to grow at and get better at. He said, but if you watched him, the moment there were times maybe he didn't know what to do, or there were moments that he was learning, but the moment was never too big for him. It wasn't a deer in the headlights. And he said he belonged there. He goes, yep, we all have a learning curve. Tom had a learning curve. Tom about Brady. Everybody's got a learning curve. But if you watched him, there was never a deer in the headlight moment. I thought that was really impressive by Brian. And I think it's a reality. I'd love your thoughts on what Brian told me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've heard what Brian has said before about Aiden O'Connell, and Brian Hoyer is a guy who's been around some talented quarterbacks in his time, so he knows what good quarterback play looks like, and I always appreciate to see veteran quarterbacks who are so willing to teach and help those young guys learn. And I mean, Brian's a seasoned pro, and for him to say absolutely, I thought that's very good analysis. And he does, Aiden O'Connell does have things to learn, and who doesn't have things to learn? Absolutely. But I think you saw the growth week after week with him, and you saw a much more confident O'Connell. And yeah, sure, he has things he needs to work on, and he's said as much. He wants to be, a more vocal leader. So yeah, there's certainly still room to grow, but I think Brian's absolutely right.
And the thing about it is, yes, I'm friends with Brian, but Brian, I don't think is a QB1 in the league. I've never said he was, but he was brought in to be a teacher. He was brought in to be a mentor. So I mean, he had his hands in Andrew Luck, Baker Mayfield. I mean, now you can go on and on and on. All the teams that brought him in as a mentor to help young quarterbacks. It speaks for itself. All right, I want to get to we're talking about perception today, everybody, with Carter Landis. In fact, Carter, tell everybody real quick, where can they find you on Twitter?
I am at Carter Landis 3 on X, Twitter, whatever you'd like to call it these days. So go ahead and follow me if you'd like.
All right, so now I want to stick with perception. We're talking about Aiden O'Connell. We talked about what Brian Hoyer said, which I thought was very, very strong opinion from Brian. And now, but when you look at perception, let's talk about Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner is under respected. I think this was a terrific signing. I've had several people say to me, um, hey Hondo, but he signed such a big contract. Doesn't it tell you he's going to be QB1? First of all, when you look at it in perspective, it was not a big contract. It was a 2-year deal that the Raiders can easily get out of after one. Easily. But the second thing about the deal that I thought was fascinating is you have to have two quarterbacks. And so to pay a guy like Gardner to make sure you're going to get him, who's proven, who's a great locker room guy, you know that he's going to understand you're going to get everything to compete, but you're going to have to beat Aidan. If it's a tie, it's like the tie in baseball goes to the runner. If it's a tie in this quarterback battle, it's going to Aidan. There are specific things about him that made you want to say, okay, yeah, the Raiders were, this is the Raiders' point of view, we'll overpay him, uh, maybe, but we don't think it is because it's only a 2-year deal and he's going to do what we want. I think Gardner Minshew is being underrated. You and I have never said, nor has anyone connected with our Sports Illustrated coverage, ever said, oh, we know Aidan O'Connell is a super, Hall of Fame player. No, we don't. We just know off the resume that there's been enough to give him the chance. We don't know how this is going to battle out. And I'm a little bit surprised at how Gardner gets underrated as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Raiders are in kind of a perfect situation here. I mean, you either have Aiden O'Connell start, and you've got Gardner Minshew right off the bench if they need to go to him. And I think we saw last season in the NFL how important backup quarterback play has turned out to be. You saw a bunch of guys get injured around the league, and their season started to suffer because they don't have that backup quarterback who's able to keep them afloat. And I mean, that is exactly what Gardner Minshew did last season with the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, they were just I believe he threw maybe one errant pass away from them being in the playoffs. This is a guy who throughout his career, whether it be in Jacksonville, whether it be in Philadelphia, Indianapolis, has helped teams. Has he been, throwing the ball all over the field and throwing 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and winning games? No, but he's done just enough to keep teams afloat and keep them in playoff races. And I think that's exactly the type of backup quarterback that you need. That's the type of guy who is going to help you if you need it. And I mean, with the Raiders situation, what they have around them offensively, that's just a guy who has to come in there and throw the ball to Devontae, throw the ball to Jacoby, throw the ball to Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, hand it off to Zamir White. This is the perfect sort of situation. And yeah, I think Gardner Minshew is also being a little underrated because, I mean, all he's done, I feel like when he gets that opportunity, is make big plays and help teams win and not lose more games than they need to. He keeps them right where they need to be. I feel like when he is in there as a backup slash, get in there as a starter. Like last year was one of like I think throughout his career, one of the best performances in terms of when he was able to take over and keep that Colts team not only afloat, but in the hunt for a playoff spot, in the hunt for the division.
Right. And my point is that that's why you pay him what he makes, because you're hiring other guys as backups who you hope can do that. You know that Gardner can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't win the job, which I think he should get an absolute full and fair competition,
Mm-hmm.
but if he doesn't win it, you're not hoping he can keep you in a division race because he already can. I think that Gardner's just not getting that respect either. All right, last thing that I want to talk to you about, because in all my years, and as you know, I've done this a long time, in all of my years, I have never experienced on such a large basis what I want to talk to you about. Jim Tressel, my friend, the Ohio State coach, um, was famous because his best players got to play special teams. He so believed in special teams and preached it. And the way you really preach it is with practice time. And he preached it and he practiced it. So at Ohio State, it was a big deal if you were a starter and you got to play special teams because it was such an important part of the game. NFL comes in and says, listen, I don't remember the number, but I think it was less than 7%, but it could be wrong, but somewhere in that vicinity of last year's kickoffs were even returned. And they're like, hey, we want the kickoff back. It's exciting, but we want to be protective of our players. We don't want them getting hurt. So the NFL comes in, changes the rules, moves the team receiving the ball, their line over on the kicking team side of the field. There's now a box that you don't get penalized if you put the ball in the box because that forces teams to return it. I'm telling you, players are excited about this. Coaches are excited about this. I think this is going to be fascinating. And I think it's another way where the NFL, and I'm not a Roger Goodell fan, but where the NFL brilliantly keeps adding intrigue to their game. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. How excited are you about it?
It should be fun. I mean, kickoffs are one of the most electric parts of the game, and for them to be returned like that, I feel like there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of fun with that. I believe it's they saw that rule first in the XFL, and the league is sort of adopting that. That should be pretty interesting. I especially think the Raiders have a couple of those guys who are going to make some plays happen in that special teams game. Dylan Labe, who we talk about, guy who's got some shiftiness to him. Mir Abdul has been a special teams ace for his career. They could even put Trey Tucker back there possibly. I mean, you've got the speedsters, Jalen Guyton. You've got the guys who are able to return these kicks. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. I think preseason is going to come up in a couple of weeks. I think we'll get a chance to see what that looks like. But yeah, it's interesting that players are excited to play special teams. As a big fan of good special teams myself, as somebody who believes that special teams is really important in the overall dynamic of football, it's cool to see that players are excited to play that again, and it's cool that the league wants kickoffs back because last year it feels like we didn't really see a lot of kickoffs. We just saw teams kind of kick the ball out of the back of the end zone, and they're like, all right, we're going to take our chances with the team playing in their own field position. So yeah, this should be interesting. I don't know what it'll look like yet, but I think it should certainly be intriguing, and we'll see how the players and fans react to it.
I'm on my way to Costa Mesa a week from the day. Can't hardly wait to go. All right, he's the great Carter Landis. We'll see him again next week. Thanks for joining us, Carter. Everybody else, have a good day. Remember, get that great Raiders coverage. We're presenting it to you every single